me you're with Daniel, and I was like,
Dan, no. Imagine just Daniel running in the room. Saying few things.
you better say something good. Oh, are we recording? My bad. Well, not you. Alright, we're going to call the meeting to order at 5:30. I recognize that I am present, Michael is present, Elise is present, Nancy is present, Phyllis is present, Justin is present, Ryan is present, Zane is present, and Scott is present, along with the Parent Township Society, FYAs, and advisors. Over to this time. This is our agenda for tonight. You guys have already seen it. We've got 3 house requests we're looking at, and then 3 discussion points. It's going to be 4 as well, because I'm going to bring up another thing as well. So discussion on club that didn't receive ECS fees, definition of general body meeting, and then a review kind of thing for the spring 2020 budgets that we can talk about how that went, and feedback that we can for next time, honest feedback, all that kind of stuff. And then we're also going to put in a question there that Nithya posed, which was events that are happening this spring, but they couldn't request for the spring. Should that come out of the fall hotspot, or do they have to wait till the spring comes? So, just discussion topic. Hopefully we'll make a decision on that. I want to put that on your guys' radar. That being said, is there a motion regarding our agenda?
Move to approve the Tuesday, November 19th agenda.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, the motion is passed with general consent. We have 2 sets of minutes, November 12th and November 15th. Did everyone get a chance to look over these? Is our 12th meeting minutes? You can scroll through them pretty quickly. Checking for everyone noticed that the way that retriever was spelled on the application is not how retriever was spelled. That's a consistent change. Has it changed? Yeah, I just haven't posted the second issue. Kind of. Is there a motion regarding the November 12th minutes? Alright, any objections? Hearing no objection, motion is passed with general consent. And then finally, our November 15th minutes. Motion on the floor. Alright, any objections? Hearing no objection, motion is passed with general consent. Alright, done with that. So house request, we have the Pre-Op Township Society here. We'll go around, go ahead and go around and do a round of introductions. We're going to go and do a round of introductions, just so you know who the people voting are and kind of who we are. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Liam Kim. I'm the current chair of the SGA Finance Board. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a voting member.
Hi, I'm Michael Chapman. I'm a finance board representative. You see my pronouns, and I'm just voting.
Hi, I'm Sierra Reed. I am first year master, which is like the SGA. I'm not a voting member. I use she her pronouns.
I'm Manuela Tsunada. I'm also an FYA. I use she her pronouns and I do not vote.
I'm Elise Choi. I'm finance board member and I'm voting member. I use she her pronouns.
Sorry, I'm Cooper Kosh. I'm a finance board representative. I use she her pronouns and I'm also the Optometry Society's finance board liaison.
Hi, I'm Elsinore. I'm a finance board rep and I'm a voting member and I use she her pronouns.
I'm Olivia. I'm the new treasurer for Optometry Society and I use she her pronouns.
I am Gershon Sunny. I'm the Pure Township Society president.
Hi, I'm Justin Connor. I'm the vice chair of finance board, and I am a voting member. I use he, him pronouns.
Hey, I'm Ryan Barron. I'm a voting member of finance board. I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Zane. I'm the vice president of student organizations, he pronouns, and I'm a voting member.
Candace Martinez-Jones, Assistant Director for Leadership and Governance. I also serve as SGA advisor, she for pronouns, and I am a voting member.
Corey Heasley, also an advisor, the coordinator for student organizations. She her pronouns. I also do not vote.
Scott Buchanan, SGA treasurer, I'm a voting member.
Dean, secretary for finance board. I'm not a voting member, and I use he, him pronouns.
We'll go ahead and give you about 2 minutes to kind of just introduce your org, and explain why you're requesting what you're requesting, all that.
So we're the Pre-Optometry Society, basically represents students who want to become future eye doctors or future optometrists. As we all know, they prescribe glasses to people. Our club is almost a medium-sized club with like about 15, 20 members. We haven't like put in any funds for merchandise for a long time now. We don't have much merchandise, but I was hoping that we could get t-shirts for our club and just raise awareness about optometry. So that's why we asked for $300 in funds. I've attached the total amount along with like taxes and like per t-shirt cost in the thing. Yeah. I submitted a new t-shirt logo because obviously I didn't know that the Retriever logo can't work with the
Yeah.
submitted the design.
Do you want to go over to the finance board for the second one there? This is the new design tab. Yeah, it's, if you submit that into custody, they call UMBC to check if it's been refused. UMBC would say no because it's a variation of the logo, so you just get like locked in that back and forth. So we're trying to make sure that you didn't have to go through that. Is there a new design? Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the organization at this time?
Wait, Dean, could you scroll over to the right a little bit? So this is $254.07. We usually fund at like how much it actually costs. Would you be opposed to dropping it from 300 to that price on the screen right there?
No, we won't.
Alright, any other questions? Alright, we're gonna go ahead and move to creative discussion. During this time, only clients, representatives, and voting members can talk amongst themselves to kind of discuss the board's request. You won't be able to talk during this time, but if you hear anything that you feel is out of place or your reports have been misconstrued or something, just take a note of it and you'll be given a chance to respond at the end. Thanks. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and move to creative discussion. Let's start us off.
I think this is a simple request of shirts, something. Nothing we haven't seen before. We might as well just give them money for this. Like, I don't see any flaws.
Any other discussion points? Go ahead. Cool shirts. I see what you're doing. Alright, resign. Any other discussion points? Zane, go ahead.
For the request for these items, like going forward to, are they still in the folder, this box?
Yeah, so right now they've been shifted out of the review stage and into the vote record stage since we're voting on it. I usually make those adjustments at 5 o'clock. So 30 minutes before the meeting, they'll just appear from your queue. Alright, I'd like to move previous question to end debate.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything you'd like to respond to or anything you'd like to say before we vote?
No. Just like
Alright, in that case, I'd like to reintroduce FBL 115-1920, which is approval of the Pre-Optometry Society's secondary ad hoc allocation request. The total amount of $300. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd like to motion to amend the 300.
There's a move to amend the document. Is there a second? There's a second. What amendments would you like to make?
I'd like to amend the $300 to $254.07.
Alright, there's a motion to amend the document to reflect the total amount, down from $300 to $254.07. Is there a second?
Second.
Alright, the amendment is adopted. That being said, Leah. Is there a motion for regarding?
Move to approve FPL 115 or something. As amended.
Alright, any abstentions? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 8-4, 0 against, 1 abstained, the motion carries. Congratulations, you've been funded. Scott's gonna walk you out, he's our treasurer, he'll explain the process of actually going to SABSC and getting the funds that we just gave you back.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for coming in. So we have AICHE here, so we're going to go ahead and do one of our introductions. If you're okay with that, just so you know who we are. Okay. Who wants to start us off?
Hi.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm a finance representative for voting member and Hi, I'm the Cooper National Finance Board representative. I usually funds, and I'm also HU's finance board liaison.
Hi, I'm Cynthia, a finance board rep, a voting member, and a youth leader.
I'm Justin Howard, Vice Chair of the Finance Board, voting member, and I use he, him pronouns.
Hey, I'm Ryan Barron. I'm a voting member and a UC member.
Hi there, I'm Zane. I'm the Vice President of Student Organizations. How you doing?
Candace Martinez, I'm Assistant Director for Leadership and Governance. I serve as the secure advisor, she her pronouns, and I
Previously for student organizations, I serve as an advisor, she her pronouns, I also do not.
You want to go ahead?
Rock Pruitt, I'm the senior rep for ASGA, the Chemical Engineering Society. I'm here to represent
Dean, Secretary for Finance Board, now being member that you see in front of you.
My name is Liam Kim. I'm the current chair of the finance board. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the voting member.
Hi, I'm Michael, I'm the finance board representative. I UC pronouns.
Scott Buchanan, SGA Treasurer, he, him, I am a member.
Hey Ron, I'm Brenda, I'm the SGA president. I usually have pronouns and I don't vote.
I'm Sierra Duke, I'm a first-time ambassador, I do not vote, I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Daniela Garcia, also a first year ambassador, I use she, her pronouns, and I do not vote.
Nice to meet you all.
So if you want to go ahead and give a quick spiel as to what you're requesting, why you're requesting it, all that stuff.
Okay.
Your request will be on the board right now.
Okay. So as our group is starting to grow, we really started to try to incorporate more student participation with our group, whether it be a chemi or not. And so as our weekly meetings and attendance starts to grow, we wanted to start to have more fun activities for everyone so that everyone can get to know each other. Especially since between the years it's more segmented, you may not know everyone. But as you get older, it's really important to start to know everyone. It's a good support system, and honestly, that's one of the great things about our society is that we really offer this to anyone who wants to be part of it. And so what you see on the board is a black and white shirt, and our idea is that we can tie-dye it. I don't know if any of you have done tie-dye recently. It's been a while since I've done it, but we thought that'd be a really fun way to bring everyone together. Definitely a good way to de-stress. I'm sure a lot of you are stressed, especially now finals are coming up soon. And so we're requesting a little less than 300. I believe it was 299, 19. I can't remember that. 18. Sorry, one second. Thank you. And so, sorry, I'm new to this. I don't know what else.
If that's all you have, that's fine.
Yeah, and I hope I can get your support.
Does anyone have any questions for the board?
Can you kind of describe what is on the shirt? Like, what are the symbols?
Right. So, missing none of you are chemical engineering majors here. So a lot of people think that chemical engineering is kind of like chemistry, and I mean, you're not completely wrong, but a really major difference is that chemical engineering is about industry, factories, and up here something we have that's called unit ops. And so each of these symbols represents a unit op or kind of machinery. So maybe you have a pump, a separator, all these things so that you can refine or reduce different chemicals. And so up here, where we have the A is a flame, and then there's a pump. A lot of you probably have taken physics, and so this is, maybe not. Some of you have taken physics. And so this is, sorry about that. This is an engine, and then the energy produced from the engine is going to a separator, which is the I. And then at the top, that's a pump, and at the bottom, it's a way to measure your flow rate and different properties of your stream, which is thanks to your chemicals, so that you can get information about it, making sure that your machines are working correctly, the chemicals that are coming out are correct. And then obviously the UMBC coming out of that is just so that we can have the UMBC recognition. And then I won't explain everything; it's kind of boring to be honest. But this is really core and important part of of chemical engineering, especially when you're a senior. You'll make dozens of these. There's math involved with each one, and as a chemical engineer, you start to really love these things, and that's why it's really important. And I think if you go to any senior presentation, what this scheme is for your factory or whatever your process is the main component. And each of the little parts tells a different story, a lot of different math involved. And that's why we want to make it the focus, with the logo being in the center and obviously UMBC being included in that. Any questions?
I have so many, but not all the time. Any questions related to the request? Alright, we're going to go ahead and enter a period of, do you have a question? We're going to go ahead and enter a period of discussion. During this time, only finance representatives and voting members can kind of talk amongst themselves to discuss the merits of the request. You won't be able to talk during this time, but if you hear something you feel is off, or you feel like your words have been misconstrued, or something you want to add, just take note of it, and you'll be given an opportunity at the end of the discussion to address all of those concerns. Alright, with that, we're going to go into discussion. Anyone have anything they want to start out with?
I worked with the treasurer to make sure that the UMBC logo was within the branding guidelines. So yeah, she used the watermark. So watermark, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. Sure, it's also double-sided, so it's cool. And yeah, it's a really cool idea to tie the shirts and stuff.
It's definitely under $10, but if they're requesting 54 of these, so never mind. The cost of the shirt's right on there. I can't read. Any other discussion?
Amazing design, love it.
I'd like to move previous question. All in favor? All opposed? All right. I'd like to introduce FBL 336-1920, which is approval of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers Fall 2019 SAHAS request with a total amount of $299.18. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve FPL 336-1920.
All right, any abstentions? All right, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed, 8-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, the motion carries. Congratulations, you got one. All right, thank you everyone. Nice to meet you all. Scott's going to go ahead and walk you out the process of actually going to SADSC and getting the shirts and then I can just keep you. Thank you. Of course, thank you so much for coming. All right, we have the end map here, so we're going to go ahead and do yet another round of introductions. Just so everyone knows, so anyone want to start off?
No. I don't like that. I'm Untitled Chapter, I'm a finance board representative. I use he, her pronouns, and her.
I'm Brenda, I'm the SGA president. I use she, her pronouns, I'm not a voting member.
Hi, I'm Sarah Duke, I'm a first year ambassador. I use she, her pronouns, I do not.
My name is Manuela Otunaba. I'm also a first year ambassador. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, Elise, I'm a finance board member and I'm voting member. I use she, her pronouns. Hi, I'm Vivian Prakash, I'm a finance board representative. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a voting member.
Hi, I'm from senior. I'm a finance board rep. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a voting member and I'm also a college liaison.
Hi, my name is Donna Nguyen. I'm president of the Vietnam Medical Assistance Program. It's called Vietnam for short.
Hi, I'm Jessica Duncan. I'm the vice chair of the finance board, voting member, and I use he, him pronouns.
Hey, I'm Ryan Bear. I'm a finance board representative and I'm a voting member. I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Zane. I'm the vice president of student organizations, and pronouns.
Candace Martinez-Young, assistant director for leadership and governance. I serve as SGA advisor. She, her pronouns, and I am not a voting member.
Tori Heasley, coordinator for student organizations, she, her pronouns, and I serve as an advisor. I do not vote.
Scott Buchanan, SGA treasurer, he, him, I am not a voting member.
Dean Secretary for Finance Board. I am a non-voting member and I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, Donna. My name is Liam Kim. I'm currently serving as the chair of the SGA Finance Board. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a voting member. So if you want to go ahead and pull the request for the end map. They are, well, you can see for yourself. So yeah, they're requesting some merchandise, so it's not club t-shirts, I believe it's stickers and keychains. But if you wanna go ahead and talk about your request.
Yeah, so this semester we're thinking about, or we want to give free stickers and keychains to our regular members and people that we want to become members. The reason being is that we're a university chapter of a national organization of the same name, UNMAP, and our members, we do a lot of service events together, but we noticed there isn't really that sense of we are part of something, like this is the organization we're part of. So that's why we wanted to give out merchandise to our members and even use it to advertise things like Involvement Fest, or we do a lot of collaboration with VSA as well, so we were thinking about giving those away at events that we go to for VSA. I don't know. So the main reason why we thought keychains and stickers were because these are the kinds of things you can showcase, whether it be on your lanyard or on your laptop. For example, I have a VMAP keychain I got when I was a freshman. I still use it today, and it just makes me feel like I have a close tie to this organization. And we used to be a smaller org, but we're slowly getting bigger this year. So we kind of want to use this as a way to bring our members together. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Does anyone have any questions for the org at this time? Alright. We're going to go ahead and move into a period of discussion. During discussion, only financial representatives and board members can talk amongst each other. So you won't be able to talk during this time, but if you hear something that feels off or your words have been misconstrued or something you want to respond to, you'll be given a chance after discussion to voice all those concerns. Alright, with that, we're going to go ahead and move to discussion. Who would like to start us off? Yeah, so the keychain design is about the same as the same design. This is the base image for it, but if you keep scrolling down, you'll see what they're actually requesting for. All items are below $10. That's what it is. This is Vietnam student UMBC Vietnam Medical Systems Program. And then further down is an Amazon request for keychain hooks. So this will be just the actual keychains, but then they're getting the hooks that make it easier to attach to names and stuff. So $6.99 for 50, which would cover all the keychains that they're buying. Anyone have any discussion points? Alright, I'd like to move previous question to debate. All in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? Alright, anything else you'd like to say before we move into a vote? Alright, I'd like to introduce FBL 337-1920, which is for the Vietnam Medical Systems Program Fall 2019 house request for the total amount of $218.49. Alright, give them 2,000. 218.49. Alright, is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve FBL 337-1920.
Alright, I'm going to go ahead and register and censure myself. Close personal ties with almost every member of the keyboard. With that being said, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 8-4, 0 against. The motion carries. Congratulations, you got your funding. Scott here is the SGA treasurer. He's going to go walk you out. He'll explain the whole process of how to actually get the funds that we gave you and how to spend them. Thank you so much for coming. Congratulations on your line. I saw the pictures that were cute. Alright, back to our agenda. Up next we have a spring 2020 budget review. So in the email I sent out with the agenda, I asked you guys to kind of come up with some pros and deltas, things you want to see change, things you think we did good. We're going to go ahead and write some of those up on the board. And during this time, if anyone has stuff, feel free to come up and just write it up on the board yourself as well. I'm going to go ahead and move up the projector screen. And I'm hoping it's more of an informal discussion, like what we actually think we did good during this process and what we think we can improve on it. What color?
Should we write different colors for pros and cons?
Yes.
That's red.
That's why we have purple. I'm going to go ahead and just make it right here first of all. This would be our pros and our cons.
It's a nice way to say cons.
So Delta
Change.
is saying change. So I'm trying to look at more of the conversation, sort of like what we did good and what we did bad. What we did good and what do we need to change to improve on. Because I feel like if we just list all the stuff we did bad without saying how we're going to fix that, then the problems are just going to continue. We can still put things we thought were negative here if we don't know how to change it, but just something we acknowledge that needs to change. Does anyone want to go first? Let's go.
So I think the like communication in terms of like liaisons, like reaching out to your clubs via emails, clubs reaching out to liaisons like with questions. That's the problem with that. And I think some information maybe was lost in between, but I think we like did a relatively good job, and like we had like the drafts, the email templates that Justin made, so we were able to like send consistent emails as the deadline was approaching, so that was helpful.
Alright, so other board analysis. Michael, go ahead.
We actually got a budget spending time for a change. So that's a pro. Something that might be changed though is just ensuring we're consistent when we're voting and stuff. So being consistent across all works.
Other pros and cons? We're going to take time to discuss each of them, so this is just a spitball of anything you think should belong to this list.
I think like Scott did a really good job with his treasurer training and like making documents for the website to help clubs figure out like the application walkthrough, things that the liaisons to point their clubs towards.
Good job. Other pros and deltas?
This kind of goes along with the new process, but defining terms and kind of expectations of the system. Yeah, Delta.
So we can add to this list throughout the night if you guys think of other stuff. But I just want to go ahead and start that right now. Any other pros or deltas? Scott, go ahead.
I don't think that the new system has enough safeguards or checks along the way to make sure that like student organizations just don't like make one mistake and then get categorically denied.
Terrible. Not enough safeguards for boards. What else? Go ahead.
I don't think that some budgets were given enough time to be discussed.
Anyone else? Any other think things we did well, things we want to change. It can be about the process as we did it. It can be about the system as a whole. It can be the fallback, the response, correct, just anything involved with the budget system, our actions, and things like that. Go ahead.
We showed up on Fridays for special meetings.
That's a pro, right? Or is that a change?
You're proud of.
I'm proud of the fact that we did it. It sucked that we had to do that. We did it together.
Changes shouldn't need Friday meetings. I apologize for being on there. I'll make it much clearer. Brian, go ahead.
Doing our best to keep a positive attitude about difficulties. This is a pro.
You did your best.
Yeah. So like I'm glad that we did our best to keep a positive attitude, and when we did encounter difficulties, we did our best to address them.
Melissa?
Survey Monkey was super helpful, so we didn't have to make the sheets.
I think it's a great system. Actually, the fact that I've been stuck inputting one. It says chair, because I've been stuck inputting all the data from the spreadsheets individually into each request. So like we have to open the request, find it on the legislation tracker to get the FPL, the vote, and then find it on the sheet to put the numbers. There should be a better way from that, but I think that's a start.
I think it would help the board to know which requests are being reviewed when. So like, so that they can adequately prepare for the meetings. So I think there's a difference between, oh, we're gonna review on-campus requests and not know which ones we're gonna review. Versus we're gonna review these on-campus requests. If we can get through these other ones, great, but we're definitely gonna be reviewing these, prepare for that.
Other changes or pros? How do you see it? All right. We can continue adding to this sheet as we go on. I'm going to go ahead and move the screen back down so that we can look at the definition of a general body meeting. But once we finish that, we'll kind of come back to this and address how we think these changes should be implemented and pat yourself on the back for all the pros. Because I was expecting this list to be a lot shorter and this list to be a lot longer. So I'm proud of what you guys have done. All right. Is everyone okay if we move on to general body meeting discussion? Or does anyone want to continue on this?
Wait, I thought we were finding solutions for the changes.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Good. Dirt. So changes would be consistency and decisions across the board. Thoughts on that? Wilson?
I think like as we define terms, it'll sort of like help us be consistent. I think the reason that it was hard was because we had very abstract ideas and we weren't applying it. Because every discussion was like unique and being treated as like a separate, like from other clubs. So defining terms and having like non-negotiable like definitions.
Any specific terms and definitions that you think we should have defined? Anything else? Right.
I think it'd be helpful to kind of have this set precedents after we make them.
Set precedent.
In a document that we can reference as we're working through additional requests.
Set precedents and take note of them.
And not just happen like in the minutes. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you think we do in terms of consistency and decisions across the board? All right. Circular discussion. Thoughts on that?
A timer.
Timer.
Or like a queue, and you have to like, I don't know, I'm just thinking like as far as like TA help requests, when you go to office hours, you have to put kind of what your issue is, so maybe they have like a queue, like here's what I want to talk about, and if it's like the same thing every time.
You all heard a poll everywhere. Or it's not like you can. So yeah, we can look at implementing timers or queues or limiting time for discussion, and then similar. Senate does a similar thing where they'll have like a set amount of time for each discussion, and then their body votes on whether they want to extend that. So they'll say 5 minutes for discussion. If 5 minutes pass, they'll ask if anyone wants to move to extend that discussion to talk more about the issue. Everyone kind of agrees that it's something that should be discussed more than they vote on that. If the vote doesn't receive enough votes, then the discussion's over. So you can look at something similar in finance board if you guys are okay with that. That'll be discussion for another time. Any other thoughts regarding circular discussion? Go ahead.
I think a lot of people get repetitive because they're listening for when they can talk instead of like listening to each other. So paying attention to everyone to make sure that you're just not going to repeat someone, and also not just talking to say something. Like if the point's been made, then it's been made. Additionally, I would kind kind of go off of what Ryan was saying, you can have like a word for it. So if like someone's talking in a circular format, if you say like whatever the word is, be like name tag, then you're like, oh crap, I'm talking in this stuff, sorry, I'm bringing up points that have been, like you could have a code word for it if you want, so that way it's, no one feels awkward being like, Candace, you're talking in a circle, I need you to stop. You just be like name tag, she'll get it.
Possible code word.
I just close it all the time.
Coding business. Any other thoughts for circular discussion? If not, that's cool. Defining terms and expectations. We already kind of covered that. We just need to do that. Not enough safeguards for orgs. Thoughts about this? I definitely agree with it. I don't know how I would change it though. Michael?
Yeah, because part of the cons I was thinking about was the system's a little inflexible. You know, if you're categorically denied everything, you're kind of just not funded for the entire semester, even if it was something small in error that prevented you from getting funding. So, I had an idea about it. Maybe I'll propose it at a later date once I give it more thought. But pretty much my idea is maybe having a runoff system where we take a small amount of money and have it where orgs who may have made mistakes or something can use that money at a later date. I think that would go a long ways, but it's just a crazy idea. So.
I also have an idea.
Alright.
I wonder if you could have like a first due date, and then you review them, and you're like, these ones have problems, and you kick them back, and then give them the opportunity to fix them by the second due date. So then you provided them the feedback of like, well, if you don't fix this, we're not gonna review it. You didn't provide us with the documentation, you mark this as a QDM, or you didn't get your advisor to sign off on time. So it's like you have to get it in to be reviewed, and then you review it for errors, and then if there are errors, you kick it back and say you have until this date to fix it. This came to me.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go on the same lines, just like an initial screening, but I think in addition to that, we could have like a checklist that would make the process really fast, and that would go along with defining terms and expectations.
Checklist for organizations to use or for the board to use?
For both. It would be useful for both.
Elsa, go ahead.
I don't think we discussed it, I think this last, like in the summer, but maybe being more transparent about our presence, in the, like, actual application. I know there would be, like, a lot of consequences, or, like harmful sort of results, but because if we put, like, by the way, like, we're not funding GBMs as per precedent in the application, then, like, all the clubs might just not check off like it as being a GBM, even though it still is. But I don't know, like maybe there are I think there are genuinely clubs who didn't know that we were not becoming GBMs and they requested it, and then we have to go through the entire process of denying it. So be more transparent about some of our precedents.
Advertise budgetary statutes. Right.
To kind of piggyback off that, maybe put a direct link in the SGA website for a finance board to the specific documentation. That's just something that.
I think we do look at budgetary statutes on that.
No, like what else? Precedents as they're being worked, like have a direct link on the finance board location.
Something like that. Justin, go ahead.
Let's do it for that test after treasurer training for treasurers. I mean, just testing if they understand the system and see like what's good and what's not. I don't think that's.
We can do that in ceremony.
Yeah, like it's simple. Like all they need is like 8 out of 10 or something.
I think so.
Other thoughts for safeguards?
Okay.
How many retries? No.
You're no longer treasurer, you failed.
Resign immediately.
Alright, any other suggestions? Alright, not enough time for decisions.
Oh no, it's a feather, sorry. So, just like Lily said, like, I wouldn't be in favor of more meetings within the week, but maybe extending from like 4 to 6, yeah.
Brian?
I think we implement a lot of the previously stated solutions, then the efficiency of meetings will drastically increase, and then we don't necessarily need additional time.
Implement all this. Yeah. Are you okay if I don't write that?
Yeah.
Alright, change the system. Other thoughts regarding time for decisions? Alright, shouldn't have Friday meetings. I think that's kind of addressed in the decision time frame. I know at least in leadership we're looking at maybe extending it from 30 days to 45 days to give a little extra time but not go too much over. But again, if that does happen, it would run for you guys. So it's not a behind closed doors decision. Sorry, Monkey, that's just me. Sorry.
You don't need to cross it off. You're not raising your hand.
No, I can't.
Huh. I have slight astigmatism, so I cannot read that far.
Something.
Is required.
Yeah.
You were saying, I wrote notes. You were saying this one was, that you don't know who's being reviewed when, so you can prepare.
So like finance board can prepare pretty fine.
Not that that's a Timmy, so. I was like, I don't know who Timmy is.
Time request, that's on that, I think it can go on our side. I'm gonna take the footage for basically how long it took us to go through a certain amount of orgs. So say it took us like an hour to go through 15 orgs, maybe extend that to like an hour 10 to give us more time since we did cut off some discussion. And then I'll give you guys a preset for each meeting. So if I know we're having a 4-hour meeting and we can feasibly get through 15 orgs in an hour, then we'll assign that much, and then do the over process like Ken was talking about. But that'll be something that'll get changed in time for next one. That's just a plan thing. But now that I have the data on how long each request kind of takes to discuss, during our part meetings, we'll let you know which orgs, have the issues with their $30 per head or $12 or issues coming up, and you guys will know about that ahead of time. And then during the actual voting, we'll put all that information in. Something that I can't make it required for you guys, but definitely looking over a lot of the requests before the meeting, and hopefully the system will help out with that as well. Any other, so those are the changes, these are potential solutions. Does anyone want to add anything else onto our potential solutions or things to kind of look over the next couple of minutes? Go ahead.
So in the old system, the treasurer and treasurer support team would do the pre-screening. Is there any way that they could be involved so we don't have to do as much work in the meetings amongst ourselves?
I have no issues.
Like, what would you guys want them to do if they were going to do anything?
What do you mean?
Hmm?
Wait, what are you talking about?
So in the old system, the budgets would be sent to the treasurer for review before the finance board to make sure that there were no mistakes or whatnot. So is there a way to implement that benefit of the old system so we don't have to do pre-screening?
Would it be beneficial if you would have to know who's being talked about, right? Like, so like, could you say, all right, everybody's applications are submitted, and then you say, and then, the chair says, okay, here's the schedule for the next 45 days of what we're gonna review. The treasurer support team could say, okay, we're gonna look at the ones that are coming up, look through those, if there's any mistakes, we're gonna email them and be like, they need to fix this by this date. So that it's ready to be seen by the board. But that would entail the chair setting a schedule based on what's submitted, so that you and your team could know who is going to when. Or at least have like a roadmap of what you need to get.
You want to open those pictures?
Thank you. Okay.
You want some?
No. But yeah, in order for your team to do that, you need to know who's going to be seeing this or when, to be able to give
guys have the access to it, you could like give yours out, definitely make a schedule. And then if you wanna do a second due date, or like if you guys catch it, then you can say, hey, respond in like 72 hours with these changes before the board officially reviews it or stuff like that. Would you be okay with that?
If you get the agenda out.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, we'll have that amount of time to.
Yeah, I plan on making a schedule, so that for however long we have for the budget cycle, you'll know basically the agendas for all those meetings out, at least in terms of budgets that goes talking about. Agendas will still be on a weekly basis in case we get stops or requests for other issues, but, Zane, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about looking at this as like, I think having, like if there's gonna be a set of eyes like prior to it, it would also be good if like they're including like time. I mean, obviously like emailing people, but just like prior stuff so that we can discuss. Cause I know that's kind of what the system was prior, was looking at, like, I mean, issues were still brought up before the board because of the order didn't respond, like we still have to talk about it. But I think, yeah, it would be helpful in terms of, like just general issues that could be emailed before the order instead of us sitting here presenting like, oh, we should like call them. But yeah, I think it would be helpful.
We can try and make it proactive if we had like, you need a signature, like how they do for off-campus approval for their liaison or the TSD or meeting or something.
I mean, I don't think they can submit without a signature.
Yeah, that would be the point. So we look it over and make sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you could say, like if they submitted it and they're missing something, you can reopen. They can resubmit it. Is that what you're saying, or saying something else?
I guess that would be kind of unfair if somebody like didn't submit it because they thought something was wrong with it, but like
No,
having
like
either-
they submitted it, and you're like, we need this document. Or you mark this as campus, but really it's off campus. We're gonna reopen it for you so you can change it, and you have to let them submit it again. But they got it in on time.
I guess it'd be good for orgs that way.
So maybe one more step where it goes to like a pre-screening section in SurveyMonkey, and then somebody looks it over, and then they can send it back.
Yeah. You can do that. You can do that.
Maybe especially for cause they cut, because they have information on contracts, being like, hey, you're requesting $4,000 in contracts, and not saying what it's for. Give us some documentation. So I think that would help out some orgs. Other changes that you guys would like to see made to the system, right?
Kind of goes along with the legal advocacy type things. You could ask like leading questions in the SurveyMonkey to guide towards a certain behavior for the events that we're expecting.
Okay,
Give an example.
So like,
Because I don't speak this language, you speak.
so we don't want them to be GBMs, right?
Right.
So we could make our question very leading to where it'd be like, I don't know, it kind of points in a direction as far as the type of event that they're supposed to hold. To where it's very obvious that it cannot be a GBM.
This isn't a GPM, right? That's like
And they'll be like, no.
Well, you can ask them, say, is this a GBM, yes or no? If they say yes, and be like, I mean, you can't complete this application. Well, because we don't fund GBMs.
I'm gonna put no.
But then, well, isn't that what you want them to do?
Yeah, it's such a double.
I think
That would be in the Q-test, right?
Yeah, I think that'd also be a thing where we don't want them to even submit Gmail applications, so even if it incentivizes them to say no, like, we're still looking through all the requests.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first lead question would be like, instead of saying like, is this a GBM, be like, this isn't a GBM, right? Because it kind of implies that you should say no. That's the leading question that I think, right?
Okay, yeah, I think GBM is a better example. Maybe if I come across a better example, I'll share it.
Okay, I'll put it up. Maybe?
Access to the SurveyMonkey interface for the service.
For what?
For like the application. Because I know you make the changes, but like it would be interesting for us to be able to see the actual interface for how you make the actual.
You want to see how the sausage is made?
I mean,
Happy to show you.
okay.
Right now?
I mean, probably not right now, but later.
Yeah, you can do it. You
I
can
will
have
do it,
something.
let's go over it and kind of just see how that also works.
Made it to the finance section.
Fine. other changes you guys think should be implemented? I'm gonna take notes of these and then kind of start working on implementing them as we see fit. Elsa?
Actually, like the fact that Scott said finance for training, low key though, like in the beginning, having a session or like a meeting time dedicated to for us to like learn the intricacies of the system and how better to help clubs, because there are a lot of points where like I feel like some representatives felt a little lost, and we all had different amounts of information, and we're relying on different people to like help us, but we can sort of make it better by just informing everybody about what they need to know.
Yeah, we can do like finance board session like maybe 2 weeks before budgets are due or 3 weeks before budgets are due, with that every meeting led up to them have like a 30-minute session just to review training and stuff. Yeah. So any other changes or recommendations? If not, that's fine. We can continue adding to this list later, basically throughout until the next budget cycle. I'm going to go ahead and these are all typed up in the minutes, kind of start working on potential solutions and changes we can make to either our budgetary statutes or the way the meetings run or stuff like that, and then I'll bring those before you guys, and then we can kind of muck with the changes there and be like, well, I think this is good, but I don't like this, and deliberate and amend so we can change our statutes for the better. Everyone cool with that? Any other comments regarding how we did in terms of the spring 2020 budgets? Brian, go
I
ahead.
have a question about Surrey Monkey. The documents that we were working from for the advisor sheets, those were exported from Surrey Monkey, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to read out your letter?
Put a plus trying to improve the system.
Yeah, there's definitely still fundamental flaws in the system currently as is, in terms of the ways that clubs kind of get organized and handled and all that. So I think it's just something that will have to be tweaked out over time. But I think these changes are a good first step. Is everyone okay with us moving on, or any final thoughts or comments regarding the spring 2020 budget review? Right. Is everyone okay with working? We're going to move into our next session, which is definition of a general bylaw. Is everyone okay with heading into the old FBL that Ryan had written, our old working definition for SGA, and kind of just working on modifying that? Do you want to?
I'll put it in the job.
Never mind, we're going to work off Michael's. No, that's Ryan.
And what?
No, just take a look at it, see what you
Betrayal with his eyes.
I mean, I'm completely okay with using bonds and gonna be incorporated.
This is definitely late, but I think you have more to work on. If you want to just go ahead and email it to me, I can pull it up, and I'll put it in the drive. I might boy shotgun door already started to wear off. Shotgun. Yeah. I stabbed my case into it, let it fizz out. Just finished it.
It's not common sense.
Alright, Michael, you want to go ahead and present your
Yeah, it's okay.
sure. Vince emailed over. I'm gonna go ahead and put a descriptor up. Michael, the floor is yours.
So, general body meeting, it was a sticking point. So I said, I have a lot of work to do. Why not just spend it figuring out what a GPM is? So I started out first by trying to connect what a general body meeting was to something tangible, maybe something that's used in the real world. There are examples that completely and directly pertain to what a general body meeting in terms of student organizations are, but something that comes pretty close is something called an annual general meeting, which is what financial institutions use, such as corporations and stuff. And I'm knocking off Wikipedia. That's pretty much a meeting of the general membership of an organization to conduct business on the behalf of the company or organization. And the purpose is pretty much for the board of directors to make important decisions regarding the organization, informing members of previous and future activities, and making financial decisions regarding the organization. And then I went and pretty much looked at what was in the event. I'm gonna let you guys go and figure it out. So pretty much what I was proposing for what a general body meeting is pretty much using part of the idea of what an annual general meeting was, is using the idea that typically student organizations don't make financial decisions with respect to the general vote of the general body, with respect to the vote of the general body. So with that kept in mind, I think a general body meeting should include any lecture style meeting that falls within an organization's general purview. I gave examples, which that's why this document is so long. I think it would be so much easier if you read it, because
It is going to be in the spring 2020 budgets quarter.
let's do that, because I don't talk.
Content culture.
What?
I'm looking at
Yeah,
example for
I was
Cloudy.
like, let's not include boards names, so I don't assume that. So.
You said spring 2020 budget request?
Yeah.
And what's it called?
It's called What is a General Body Meeting? If it's not on there, just go ahead and refresh your page. It should be there. It's a Word document. It should be all the way at the bottom.
Oh, okay. And please excuse my 70 grammar mistakes you'll find.
So it's the only distinction that, for example, would be the purpose of the meeting have to be to educate non-members about the culture.
For which one?
For Club B.
Yeah, so in my idea of a general body meeting, I think that part of a lot of student organizations strive to educate their members about whatever their organization is about, whether it's a culture or if they want to educate their members about the culture they're studying. If it's a educational org, they want to educate their members about something. And typically speaking, I find lectures to be, a guest speaker to be something of kind of a lecture style discussion, or something that is done typically to educate its members. So due to the fact that I guess bringing in guest speakers would be a way to educate student organizations members, which is in the general purview of the org, I would consider that to be a general body meeting. But I mean, that's just my perspective on the situation. Personally, since I found out that apparently visitors and as well as members can attend student orgs general body meetings, I don't really think it matters regardless of whether it's a visitor or not, because technically speaking, that argument could be made for anything. So it might be extreme. So
I think the only, yes, and I think the only consideration or challenge I would put on that is if it's a speaker that they're paying for to bring on campus, if that makes sense. It doesn't happen a lot, but I think crew does it sometimes, historically, I think they've done it a couple in the past year. But those are usually an event versus like a GBM, because they'll run out of big space, you know what I mean? So that might be something to consider too, as far as who they're bringing in. Because I think some lecturers definitely are like, hey, we're bringing this into our GBM, but some aren't, so, yeah.
So how would you sort of incorporate the discussion about like advertising in terms of like how much money they're requesting for convocation? How would that impact what you read as a general body meeting? Because if they're like really, really heavily trying to spread the word, does that negate their objective?
I mean, Common Vision is a great way to advertise, but personally I feel like a lot of orgs, especially the spring semester, I felt they had things that I would consider general body meetings, but they try to indicate that through the use of Common Vision through advertisement. I don't know if that's kind of the question you're asking, like if advertisement makes it more of an event versus a general body meeting. I'm not too sure if I believe that. I believe, more personally, I believe if it's something the club is traditionally trying to do in terms, I guess, except what Tori said, if they're bringing in a guest speaker and they're paying money. I feel that if they're typically trying to do something that's related to the organization's mission, I feel like that's more of a general body meeting than something where they kind of change gears or do something that's more tangible or something that can give the student body, so the members or the visitors of the student body, more of a experience than just I can't find words. That's why I typed it all yesterday. I had a better train of thought, so I'm sorry.
Zane?
Just to maybe give some like, I guess like lectures that I've like experienced in terms of being part of a student or like freshman year. So in terms of like college Democrats, like during our actual general body meetings, like people from like different advocacy groups or like even like political people like running for office or something like that would come to the meeting and like talk. So I would consider that a general body meeting. And so like I do agree with like kind of how you laid it out. And then another example, just to give like kind of a real world like one that happened was they've organized like the district level like representatives and senators to come and like speak with people. And so I feel like that would be considered like like advertised open to people, and it was like trying to involve more people to come and talk to more representatives about like government, like political actions and things like that. So I think in terms of that, that's a good definition, because I do think if you're just bringing in someone to speak, even if you were to advertise it, it's occurring at your general body time and most likely at your general body meeting. So just to give like more context to that.
I have something else. I just wanted to pose a quick question on if they're requesting like ECSVs, if we could be safe considering that as an event, because I mean ECSVs are one of those things that I don't think you use for general body meetings. I just wanted some discussion on that. But also go ahead and then we can bring back to it.
I mean, I agree with the points that Zane was making in terms of like that distinction. However, I feel like there's still a lot of room for like, for the example that Zane gave, when like there were people coming in doing general body meetings, so there was a separate event with like congressional, just whatever people were coming in. When you're talking about it, one of the points that you were taking into consideration was timing, which is something that we discussed in regards to like if a club was requesting money for an event during the time that they would regularly meet for GBM. Some people were like, oh, that just like proves it's a GBM, but other people were like, that's not enough of an indicator. So I was wondering like if that's something that we would be then taking into consideration. Like, does it matter the timing, if like whether or not it's like being held during the regular GBM time?
How was that? In a perfect world, when I wrote this up, I don't think I was considering timing. I don't feel that timing should be used as a methodology to determine whether it's a GBM or not. More so, what I'm looking towards is more about the structure of the event they're trying to hold versus what the mission statement of the organization was, and comparing to if what they're asking to hold is within what the typical mission statement of the org is, that I feel should be considered a general body meeting, versus if they're trying to do something, well, and I guess that kind of I could conflict with my own argument by saying that, you know, like one of the examples I gave about what wasn't a general body meeting was Club A, which I have up here. Can you scroll down to? Oh, yeah, thanks. So Club A was an educational organization which strives to educate its members on the process and intricacies of brick making. If Club A wanted to hold an activity in which they provided members of the organization as well as anyone else in the campus community the opportunity to create bricks and receive firsthand experience in the creation of bricks, I would consider this to be an event because the activity provides tangible benefits to the campus community as well as the club members. And part of the justification I used there was the fact that, you know, it was giving the people in the club as well as the campus community the ability to actually experience something, physically learn a new skill, pick up something, versus a GBM kind of, you know, it's kind of discussion. It's usually you can learn something from a GBM, but it's, like I said, I was on a roll yesterday. Not so much today, I'm tired. But pretty much it's just not the same thing. And hopefully I'll get my words better in the next couple minutes.
Stop it.
So just a clarifying point, so the sentence above that, should I say it should be considered an event?
Or, yeah.
Should not.
It should be considered an event, not a general
You can
body.
open it up as a doc and it'll open up in a folder and then anyone can just like go in and suggest, just put in suggestions, I guess, that way, but. All I just wanted to say was like, how you I guess more of a lighthearted point, how you combine brick making, Wakandan culture and Texas into one event is impressive.
Sorry, it's waiting for a business meeting, so I don't know if I said, I'm also. Alright, what are thoughts, or other thoughts are concerning kind of this definition, so to speak?
Something I would like to say though is I did try my best to emphasize co-sponsorship. I don't think co-sponsorship is emphasized enough by the finance board due to the fact that it's a very valuable asset between organizations if they were to work together. And I think if we were kind of to more mold the general body meeting versus an event to more encourage co-sponsorship, I think we would see a significant increase in very well-valued events and just everyone being happy, holding hands and but yeah.
Scott, go ahead.
To use like an example that we went through with kind of general body and with sponsorship. So Hot Beverage Club is like trying different beverages from different cultures, and for basically their weekly meeting, they usually collaborate with another organization and then learn about that culture and also fulfill their purpose at the same time. How do you separate that?
So you're talking about Hot Beverage Club. So to me, I would actually really encourage that. I do like that idea. Kind of what I was suggesting in the document is if we were looking at general body meetings being something that's outside of the purview of a club, if you have a bunch of co-sponsorships, you're including a bunch of different purviews. And for that reason, no one single club is, I guess, receiving a certain advantage by holding that event. So for that reason, I feel like co-sponsorships in general, if they're being co-sponsored with another club, should be considered as an event and not a general body meeting, if you look at it from that perspective.
Let's just add some ECS fees.
I think you should, I think for the most part, ECS fees show that it's something event-like, but I think depending on the cost of those ECS fees is what you should keep in mind, because if someone wants to like rent out this room and just have AV for their meeting, that there's an ECS fee, right? So I think, not that I want to put a monetary stamp on it, but just considering the scope of the ECS fees, if that makes sense.
Justin?
I mean, I feel like with the ECS fees and like condominium and stuff, I think they can be good indicators as to whether or not something is like an event or a GBM. But I don't think we could like exclusively say like, oh, because this event has ECS fees, it is an actual event rather than a GBM. So like what Troy was saying, like some clubs might just, and like we've seen it a lot, like some clubs just sort of put ECS fees down without even like really taking the time to like figure them out. Or like like what they wouldn't do at the event would like definitely fall under like this is for general body members. So I think like they should be used as like indicators, but not like set like this is like the distinction between them.
Alright. Other thoughts? Ryan, go ahead.
I don't know what ordinance is, but maybe we could set like a minimum number of non-members expected, like UMBC non-members for events. Or a percentage, like you are required to have 25% of your club size in non-club members at this, if you're considering an event.
I feel like that's very micromanaged.
Well, that's what the definition, that's what GBM is for, right? That's why we're here on the board, to determine where funds should go for events.
The club building, the whole meeting size is like.
I know, that's why I said percent, so like you need 10 people.
I think maybe like if they're saying we expect 100 people to come, like a certain percent of that should be non-members of the club. I think is what Brian meant to say, not like 25% of that club's like number. So if they have a club of 300 people, like they shouldn't have to expect 75 people of non-Christian stuff.
I think that's already kind of like encompassed in the definition now. Like if you read what an event is supposed to be defined as, is for the greater community rather than just for the members of the club. So I don't think having a hard number of how many other people have to come would be beneficial. I think it's just already included.
The reason I suggested that is because for a loose definition, it's easier to make precedent for something like a hard and fast percentage, where it's not necessarily determining by the size of the club. It's more of participation of the general community. This club is legalistic in its nature, and it's easier to determine consistent judgments on something that is a number.
Anyone knew what the FY is?
Don't you want to give them all a heads up? Be like,
Brian, give us tell us how to do it. I don't know what this is. What are general thoughts about the conversation so far?
I can see where Ryan's coming from about like the percentage, because I think that goes back to like the advertisement part. Like I think you should have, maybe instead of like a certain number or a percentage of people coming, you should have like a certain requirement advertise it for general body meeting. And like, I know this way, like set in the slide, like these are places that we can advertise. Maybe that's something we can think about giving to clubs and boards, and like, hey, if you want to do GBM, maybe you should give your clients for like advertising and stuff like that. But it's actually not much, but
I think it's what, like, two bills and stuff.
I think
Inventory.
something that we could do is like on the website where we have like the resources for clubs, like have like a sort of like a checklist, quizzy sort of type thing where clubs can use that as a reference to determine whether or not their event or whether or not like what they're requesting for would be considered a GBM by the board. So it could have questions like, are you, if we were to go with a percentage idea, like are you expecting like blah, 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 and then they can like fill it out themselves. You know how like in magazines you have those like quizzes and then you like count out the numbers, like who would you, like that?
All I had to say was BuzzFeed.
Yeah, it's BuzzFeed. I didn't have to expose myself. Anyways, but like something like that that could maybe also like going back to the transparency thing would help clubs determine whether or not they themselves would classify something as GBM, because I think clubs themselves might be struggling with that.
Checklist, we could do something like that. Scott, mentor the client.
I feel like that's a wonderful idea. I wasn't expecting that, but like, what kind of event are you? Like, I said, let's be quick. I think that's a good idea. I still think that the percentage thing is kind of impractical because by like necessity you would require like auditing the event and becoming micromanaging some stuff on that.
Mentor.
So I think Ryan has a good idea there, and I think what you can use with it is the question that's already in place is where did you get these numbers from? I'm 90% positive it's on the Survey Monkey question mark, yeah. Because I think a lot of the times in there it was stating we got this number because that's when people show up to our normal meetings. So like I think that can be a really good indicator, or maybe not even asking for a percentage, but just either rephrasing that question to kind of better help that, or utilizing that question more, because I think it got skipped over a lot in the process. But it also, in my mind, kind of raises the question of what if it is something that isn't like necessarily lecture based, but really is only just for the general body members. So like, how would you still consider that GBM, if that makes sense? So like, if it isn't we're bringing a lecture, we want it could be like we all want to play games and order pizza, but it's still really just our general body. Like, would you still consider that as a GBM if it's not like their typical, like if it's the brick club and they're hanging out to play games with each other and eat pizza, would you still consider that a GBM? It's just like an overall question I'm gonna pose. If the audience is really still just for the general body. Yeah.
Ryan.
I have two things. So we had the treasure training Kahoot, right? We still have that, right?
In the old, last year. Where I was up to add this guy.
Well, no. I'm not talking about that.
Maybe we could make, that could be part of like the game idea that Ilsa had that we could post, and then have like the answer sheet with it, and then just have that available all the time. And also, so what, first, like, I'm still thinking about percentages, not to necessarily use it, but if a club had an event and it was just their members, we would consider that a GBM, right?
Yeah.
And we know for certain that that is a 100% member only event. But then we know if there's 50 extra people, if they have 100 members, then it would probably be an event, right? So it seems like there's a range that we can define a specific threshold for to define what a GBM would get close to. If not exactly.
Well, I think a big issue we had even when we were starting to look at budgets on the spring semester was the fact that a lot of boards had things that we may have considered events, but in the end it may be just general body members who end up showing up. So going going and placing that threshold about a minimum number of people that may need to be required to come would just completely disqualify many of the smaller orgs who may not be able to get other members of the campus community to come. I think we should be more focused on if they're making an effort to go and still advertise their activity as an event versus going and penalizing them for not being able to actually make an event that can involve the general community. So that's my perspective.
Make a suggestion just to like under the woes of event section, just to add also that it is not only just for the general body, but also the whole community. I'm already thinking a loophole status of like, oh, well, we don't usually have pizza at or GBM, but today we wanted to, so it's something seldom and special. Just a thought.
So can you give me that suggestion one more time, please?
Yeah, just so it notes that it's not just for the general body population and also the whole campus. It could be like a new poll.
Well, this is gonna have to be completely revised. This was just a quick throw together.
Mike, you put some serious time into this. This is a good document.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is high quality work.
But it's very high quality. Your
So,
examples are great.
Can you go and make the change, because you know where to.
I think something we could look at is some basic criterion for like if this is true, then it's absolutely a general body meeting, or if this is true, then it's absolutely an event. And then from there, we could work out like a list of like a checklist category where like if you have X many things, then you're more likely than not to be a GBM. Versus so like if they hit a certain title, it's like the event's happening at the same time as this, or they're not requesting to come. But like there's a certain amount of like marks, then like it'll be listed as more likely than not as a GBM. So maybe like some kind of checklist we could use there.
What if we like, I don't know, just like gather more information on what like clubs in general think their GPMs are?
Justin?
I agree with Nithya. What I want to say was like, I think it would be very hard for us to like exactly legislate a strict definition of general body meeting, and rather like, because there are just so many nuances that each club can have to it. Like, I think like what Michael's document does is like, it provides like sort of a guideline for future finance boards and even us to use without necessarily restraining us to just one definition. So I think like sort of guiding us towards what a general body meeting is instead of telling us what it is would be much more helpful.
No.
So the BuzzFeed quiz. If you have enough of these pieces, it may be a GBM.
Yeah, do that. But I think, does anyone in the world would feel like that like if this happens, then it absolutely is an event or absolutely is a GBM? Because if there's none of those, then I think we can work with what we have. But if there are any criteria that we hear that we think it absolutely has to be a GBM or it absolutely has to be an event, I think that might be worth putting into our statutes just to help make things clear. But if there's a lot of nuance, so if none of those exist, that's fine. Just thoughts for going forward. Also,
Like one of those things could be like, you wouldn't have things like body elections or things like that in an event, or like discussion of like organizational administrative discussions in an event usually. So like that's like a hard thing where it would definitely be like a GBM.
So I wouldn't know how exactly partition works, but like sort of like where you see what the prime purpose of an event is for the members. So like we get a lot of end of the semester parties or end of the semester movies. Like it's clearly like that's for like the general body members.
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about. When it comes to events like that to kind of help with future finance boards, like trying to land like, well, this is most likely on that front. Like I think sometimes I've talked about that I would agree with this. If they're collaborating with another organization, then I would say it's like absolutely not a GBM. I mean, absolute is like a really strong word, so I don't like using it as much. But I think like high degree of probability that like if they're collaborating with another event, then we should list them as a GBM. Like stuff like that, so that works kind of understand where we're coming from, because there's a lot of nuance in it. But like we can't pick the orgs without, you know, kind of having a general baseline ourselves. So that's kind of what I'm focused on coming for the spring semester when they're requesting budgets for fall 2020 is to be like, if you don't know if here's a GBM, you know, here are some things that are, we know will be counted as a GBM, here's some things we know will be counted as an event. Just that way clubs have something to work off of, especially for ones that might have gotten blindsided this semester by being like, well, it wasn't a GBM. Like, well, we thought it was. So, like, being able to help them out is my main focus.
I don't know if this would fall under GBM, like this definition, and if I'm opening a different can of worms, just ignore me. But I feel like a lot of the times it was like food for the sake of food that was in these types of requests. So like, we're having pizza, but there's no purpose behind that pizza besides to have pizza at a meeting. So I don't know if that is something that you'd want it, I don't know, I don't think it would live in GBM, but it might be something to think of on another day.
Yeah. They're also looking, you know, what's being requested for certain things. I think decoration is one of those things that, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I think more often than not, if there is requesting for decoration, it's for an event, not a GBM. I think that's, it's definitely a discussion that we'll be continuing next week. We can work on refining the definition of there. But I wanted to at least first start talking about it and kind of have everyone get a general consensus of what they think the body meeting is. And I think that next week we kind of bring all those ideas together, write them up on the board, each person's individual idea of what a GBM is, and then we can kind of go around and put those information around the room on like sticky notes and be like, I agree with this point, I don't agree with this point, and then we can kind of come to a consensus to a board as to what we think certain things that are inherent aspects of what a GBM is. Again, just because while there's a lot of nuance, I think the clubs deserve to know that. So maybe not putting in a hard and fast definition in our budgetary statutes, being like, if, you know, in our budgetary statutes, if your event has X, Y, Z, it's more likely now that the finance will consider it a GBM and you won't get funded. But I think that should be right. Final thoughts before we move on? Just being mindful of our time. No. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our discussion. 7 o'clock, we're about 3 minutes early. Nice. Clubs that did not receive ECS fees. This is a big one. So there were many organizations that requested ECS fees, did not get them. The three major ones that I can think of off the top of my head are ASA's Jamba Night, got a lot of ECS fees cut. VSA's Culture Show, we basically cut the whole event because it was just ECS fees, and Musical Theater Club. And those are totals of around $1,500, $2,000, and $10,000 that we kind of cut from them. So, I know that's something that was discussed during budgetary season of like, what should we do for amnesty, quote unquote, for these clubs? You know, not like a complete forgivable, but something we can do that kind of help them out since, you know, they are kind of getting screwed over right now. So I wanted to kind of open that discussion up to the board in terms of potential ideas for what they could do. Should they deserve anything back? Should they just be left to their own devices? Stuff like that. Also, you want to go ahead and start?
Just something to think about as we have this discussion is that, well, one, I think we would have to determine a sort of like either percentage or like a monetary like cap of how much was too much like striking of their ECS fees, because like a lot of clubs got ECS fees struck in, and so, but are we gonna do like, oh, if it was like 100% of your event except Common Vision got struck out, are we gonna like, is this catered towards you, or is it like, if it's more than $1,000, I know that's like a number that you like money that clubs probably don't have in their carryover account and cannot make up for that cost. So I'd be interested to hear like what people think that cap should be, if at all.
Thoughts?
Well, I would like to 100% agree with what Elsie said. I don't know what that cap should be at this point due to the fact that we were kind of running off the assumption that if Common Vision was pretty much the only thing we funded and we pretty much cut the rest of your event, I would consider that to be a pretty much unfair to not completely think one of the big ones was the Retriever Music. Yeah, RMS, right, I should know that, but they changed their name, anyway, that's besides the point. They end up getting Common Vision for all of their events, and I think their event totals was somewhere in the realm of like $700, and we only funded them for $200 for each event, but I think they had something like 7 events, so.
Yeah.
It would be a massive burden if they would have to try to subsidize the cost of each of those events, even though they may not be as large of a cut per event as the SGA and other orgs we did cut, so.
Yeah, so RMS we did cut, they, for all of them, we cut their AV, which was $84 out.
Okay, that is cool, but.
It's the same idea for everybody. I'm trying to see what other orgs kind of just got Common Vision, and if we think that's like a necessary thing that we need to address or not.
What about Chinese Student Association? Were they?
Oh,
Because I know
yes.
they didn't get ECS and they were getting.
LGBTQ student union's track show too.
So, like, to reconsider club, would these clubs have to meet with Fred again, or is this like, we're just gonna go based off what's in the application?
No, they need to meet with Brett.
I mean, should we talk to like Fred if she's okay with that again? Like,
I mean, yeah, I'll reach out to her, most definitely. I think it's one of those, do you have time to kind of discuss and think about if we even want to do this? But I mean, if these clubs are going to be hosting these events, they're gonna have to meet with Brett at some point eventually. They won't be able to get out of doing that, so to speak. So we can just have that as an additional thing, like, hey, if you want to be reconsidered, you have to make sure you meet with Brett by this date. Michael and Candace and Scott.
So I think, coming off the point about Brit, I think, and the fact that, we do have a little time here now that we're not considering by the deadline for the spring budgets. I think what's important to note is that a lot of the money we're gonna be placing, if we are gonna pay for ECS fees, will be coming from Sawcost. So I'm really interested before we go and set a nice hard number or how much we're gonna start funding boards for ECS, we go and evaluate how much money we're gonna have actually rolled back into the pot, considering we're gonna be taking money away from events that didn't get funded for the fall, or didn't spend their money for the fall semester.
According to, if you mind if I just,
No, go ahead.
according to Scott, all right, Scott's plan was the total funds remaining for the fall semester are $13,900. Then also according to Scott, by January 28th, SAPSC will have the numbers back for which events didn't occur, so we'll know exactly how much money will be rolling back from the fall semester to the spring semester. So we won't know this semester, but by the start of next semester, we will know exactly how much money we got back. And then if we lob off however much we over allocated, then the rest of that will go into Sawcost. Candace and then Justin.
I forgot my point. It was pretty good too. It was fun.
Meeting with Brit.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I can't emphasize how important it is to, like, talk with her and ECS about what the options are and what they're comfortable with. Because what you do in determining tax and processes, and so, like, yeah, just say what would they be comfortable with, and help inform your decisions. You make your own decisions, but you should know what their comfort level is with options.
So I'll set up a meeting with Brit and Director Bowen sometime within the next week or so. Would anyone like to be invited to that? Scott would like to. If Zane and then Justin. All right. All right, I'm gonna make a note of that. So I'll try and find a time that works best for all of us to meet up based on your Google calendar. So please have those updated and available. And yeah, so ideally, if before the end, maybe we can kind of get an idea of what we want going forward. Then I can bring that to Brit and see if we can work out. If not, then we'll just give this a tour and see what can work on. Justin, go ahead.
So, like holding off on like depending on like Brit and like campus life can do, like what about clubs who were like close to submitting their stuff but like just didn't, so like ethics poll that was like right at the point but then just didn't like resubmit it because they didn't know. Should those clubs be given consideration as well?
What do you guys think?
Can you repeat that?
So like clubs that were like basically just didn't resubmit after like submitting everything except for like click after getting the advisor signature and then clicking like submit again, like because I was getting some petitions from like ethics poll again of people like that. Like should they also be in like consideration? Can we consider them for this sort of like situation, or do we like prioritize them after or like what?
Right.
My first inclination would be to say no, but I'm curious how many clubs are actually affected like that.
Ethics poll.
That's it.
Students are
I think it's.
Good time, top of my head, but it's less than 5.
Yeah, it's like I think it's ethics poll on one of the clubs. And I think that's it because we voted on school and that's them just didn't get it. I think like ethics poll and maybe one of the clubs that had their advisors. I don't know.
This is just a general question to the board. Is everyone at this point in favor of like having clubs meet with like Brit now? Like is that something that everyone wants to happen? Like give that chance? Because I think maybe that decision of like whether what we're gonna do with ethics poll is going to depend on how lenient we are with these clubs. And we had a lot of back and forth about people who wanted hard deadlines. So I was just curious to see if that like has that changed for everybody?
Okay, I'm gonna straw poll. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and do a quick straw poll. Option A will be allowing clubs that did not get their ECSVs in to potentially meet with Brit, potentially get some funding from this board, nothing guaranteed. Option B would just be flat out denying them, saying like, it's too late, it's over.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
And the funding that they would receive will come from the fall Sahas.
I don't know where that funding will come from at this moment. This is just a general question of, do we want to even consider leniency or MSD with these clubs? So the decision is, do we want to just flat out say, all right, you didn't meet with Brit in time, you're not getting your ECSVs, that's it, it's over, or do we want to consider a potential solution? And that might be bringing funds from false Haas, that might be rollover funds, that might be from somewhere, but that's the, do we want to do something about for these clubs or do we not? All right, so option A, finding some way to help assist these clubs, please raise your hand now. And option B, not helping the clubs and sticking with the hard deadlines, please raise your hand now.
My trouble is to see everybody else.
Well, where are you feeling?
Well, I mean,
You make me feel better if I'm voting in the no category.
huh?
I'm voting in the no category, just because that's what I promised for it.
Do you want to talk more about that?
It seems like you're avoiding the
Well,
question here.
Yeah, I think that the conversation was that you wouldn't fund ECS fees that just came out of thin air, right? Like, that weren't from Brit. Now, what you're talking about now is, okay, do we give these orgs a second chance to go meet with Brit and get correct ECS fees? So you're still living up to this, the word, spirit of not just funding things out of thin air. That, so, yeah, right.
I think also just the principle point of like, I would love to help out these clubs in doing so, and if we had the money for it, I'd throw it at them. But also trying to stick a bit more to the rated side of I don't want it to become precedent. So that's kind of where I am right now. If this board thinks that we should go ahead and do this, I'm happy doing that as well because I would love to like slide them some clubs. I mean, I'm in one of them. I'm a little biased. I want to see those events happen, especially MTC because I'm very close friends with their president. But it looks like right now the board's leaning towards trying to find a way to help these clubs. Where are you on the scale, if you don't mind me asking? And then we'll do Michael and then Justin. If you don't want to say, that's fine. We can move on.
Yeah, I wanna hear a little bit more.
Michael?
I mean, I understand not funding the clubs. I mean, I was completely for it a couple weeks ago, you know, when we had a lot of requests, not that much money. But seeing as the pressures are off, we have a better ability to see the bigger picture of maybe how money is going to be spent and how we could possibly help organizations. I think it would be in our best interest and in the club's best interest if we were able to help them in some type of way. Now, to not set it as a precedent, I think we should give such a harsh cut that it is very understandable that this is not something that should be typically done because of the fact that, you know, whereas you may have been fully funded initially, now you're gonna have to be made to make up some sort of difference, and I think right there, that's a bigger whatever, deterrent, yes. So, that's why I'm for funding, but with the, I'm not even trying to move fancy words tonight, I'm tired. With the caveat that, we significantly, I wouldn't say tax, but significantly cut whatever the requests in ECS to make them cover some portion.
Alright, Justin, then Ilse, and Scott.
I mean, I think like, I'm definitely like, maybe I shouldn't have voted in straw poll, because like I kind of want to hear more like what Britt would have to say now, and like what her like thoughts would be on this, because I know she did like make a lot of like time in her schedule for this. But I think like Michael's like right on, like there needs to be like some type of penalty, even if we have to like set another deadline for these clubs coming. Like, I think it would be like best to like, I'm trying to think, not like, I mean yeah, like basically like be very harsh and like stingy with our money, just because it's like, I don't think Saha should be used. I think maybe whatever rolls over from events that didn't happen can be used for events in the spring, maybe. But like, I think we're still giving clubs the ammo to say like, well, last year's finance board did this. Like, we have to like help them change like their like sort of mindset, like start preparing earlier.
Ilse and Scott.
Yeah, I think something that would help sway my mind in the other direction, where if we were to have more stricter, like what I mentioned before about the caps, like is this only for clubs who are like needed like 1,000 plus ECSBs and didn't get it, or is this going to be open to all clubs? Will there be a mass email sent? Like having those sort of things all hashed out. Also, to like add to Justin's point, I think I would be much more comfortable having this discussion next week after someone has met with Britt and we have her feedback, because I don't, it doesn't really matter to some extent what we think, because it's we're not going to be the ones sitting in the office and meeting with those students. So I think we, like, knowing what she has, maybe she has like ideas of her own. So like I personally would feel much more comfortable talking about this next week.
Stop.
No, I think it heavily depends on how much money we rolls back. We have like 14K in the pot right now. Like I said, Sahas is like just unreasonably big because we haven't used that much money out of it. But I would much prefer that we spend all the money that we have in this year rather than add to the reserves, because we don't really have any more budgeting for this academic year. Like we're done, so let's try and spend it and support the orgs that we're looking to support.
Justin and Ryan.
So do we have an idea of like how much ECSB like funds we denied? Like if we were to like reconsider and put them back in the pot, like how much ECSBs would like we have to give out?
At least
If we were to
12,000.
fully fund. What?
At least 12,000.
12,000.
At least.
I think it's probably
Yeah, probably more than that. But I'm saying at least 12,000. Again, not saying we would fully fund, but were we to fully fund, I think MTC was around 8 Gs.
5, well, yeah, it says you zeroed the whole thing out. So
Yeah. I can go ahead and do.
it's not, it wouldn't just be ECSB.
ESA was around 2,000 ECS fees, Jumbo Night was at least 1,500, and then the other miscellaneous clubs, we'd be looking at around 12,000 give or take.
But it's not just ECS fees that you have to fund, right? It's the other things too that go with that. Depending on what you decide to cut as a penalty for going through this process. I think you just need a clearer picture to decide whether or not it's feasible to even go down this road.
I think it's just the ECS fees that we're adding on. Because for other orgs, we would have funded the rest of the stuff. It's like, I don't think ASA could be reconsidered since we funded the rest of that stuff, but it might go on Scott.
Right, I was gonna pretty much say what you said about ECS fees. I think ECS fees should be the only thing that should be considered. Even taking it a step further, just because of the fact that it's a penalty that I think the org should be made to pay for, since they didn't submit all the documentation due to the fact that other orgs who were considered for other different line items who did submit their budgets on time were funded for those line items. I think that the only thing we should be considering here is just ECS. So.
Scott, and then Tim.
Something that Candace said that I think we just have to really make sure we're all on the same page of is don't make promises that we can't keep. We have to make sure that we have all the information and make a decision. Don't like email clubs saying this is available or anything. Like, we have to make sure that we are all on the same page of what's going to happen.
So, when we say that, like, only fund ECS fees, is this also referring to clubs that we, like, denied, like, the entire event?
Yeah. Those clubs would be given priority, I believe. Because the only reason we didn't fund the rest of the event was because of the ECS fees.
But, like, when we consider it, we only consider ECS fees, or we still, like?
That's a good question.
Again, that's the point I was trying to get to.
That makes sense. Personally,
Because that's, like, an extra thing that's, like, not really, like, for the rest of the clubs, we only just remove ECS fees and we fund the rest of it. So for this, it's like, it's kind of, it's different.
yeah, I don't know. Scott.
I don't think that we should use this time like having hypothetical cuts before we have the information. So I think the conversation should end here for tonight.
I concur.
Okay with that?
Second.
All in favor? Pending discussion. All opposed? All opposed? Alright, so we're gonna take this discussion, I'm currently sending an email off to Rick Spears and Director Bowling about meetings sometime this week. I'll see what times are available that they give back, and I'll let you guys know, and we can try and pick one that works there. As far as people going to that meeting, I have myself, Justin, Scott, Nithya, Michael, and Zane. You two? Alright.
Possibly with the asterisk next.
Yeah. Yeah, I also wanted to ask, if the club, like, realizes that, like, they wanted, I guess, I don't know if you can pull up the email that was in the Slack. The club decides they want, like, to host an event in the spring semester, and they, like, didn't, I guess kind of like, you know, like, when an event, like, I guess kind of like the reason why, we told us to use Sahas, but my question is, since the event, like, they want to do the event in the spring semester, would they request fall Sahas or spring Sahas?
Well, so the fall Sahas money is supposed to roll over to the spring Sahas if it's not used.
Okay.
So I guess another point for you to consider is, when are you going to consider these events? If you are open to hearing and funding these events that went through the budgetary process but you declined because of no documentation for ECS fees, when are you going to consider that, right? Do you consider them just now in December, or do you say we're gonna wait until the semester ends to to allow for people to go through the Sahas system for fall events. Granted, there's not a lot of time left, right, for something to happen in the fall. So arguably you could say, okay, December 1st is when, you know, given when the semester ends, because they have to do it within it could even be now, right? Because I think it's 30 days before the event, right?
There's 3 weeks left, so that would
So
make
if you could technically say, yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you want to interpret it, but it would, I don't, but I think you aren't bound by any restrictions around this fall Sahas money, because it is supposed to roll over to spring Sahas. And technically, outside of t-shirt, merchandise and marketing and t-shirts, there's no events that can happen in the fall that you would be considering, because they're inside the 30-day deadline.
I guess to add more context, it's our humor is putting on me saying that after I think they attended like the safe food pantries like breakfast thing, and they realized like that this is an organization worth partnering with to have like one like a breakfast thing, like a breakfast event with foods that are, I guess, safe for food companies. Yeah.
Or like food allergy safe.
Yeah, that's what the safe food pantry like. That's what they.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's something that they realized like this would be a good idea, but like they only like went to this event and realized all this like after.
Yeah, so they couldn't request to have an event in the fall.
Yeah,
They could request to have it in the spring.
Okay.
But there's separate money outside of this 13,000 that's set aside for spring already.
Yeah, the question is procedurally, are we okay with allowing events that are going to happen in the spring to be requested in the fall? Because this event will happen in the spring. So the question would be like, are you okay with them? If they say submit the request in the next 2 weeks, would you okay with hearing them during the fall semester? Or would you rather wait until the spring semester officially starts before we hear the request for events that might happen in the spring? Right?
Yeah, I think you're okay to do it.
Well, yeah, but don't think there's any issue with us doing that. I think the question is that something this board wants to do or not? Just on a Scott and Elsa.
I think that would be the most beneficial thing for them to do. The whole point of the new process is for them to plan ahead of time. It's first come, first serve. If they're here first, let's fund them.
Elsa? Any other discussion or ideas, opinions? Alright. Just gonna move into a vote. Option A is going to be allowing clubs to basically request for the spring semester now. Option B would be making them wait until the spring. So all in favor of option A, letting them request now. Alright. And then all in favor of option B, making them wait until the spring to make the request. Alright, looks like they'll be able to submit the request now. If you want to go ahead and email the location, let them know they can submit the request.
Is that binding?
Yeah. Might need some changes to that later. I think that's a general consensus, but it'll always be after budget season that they could send this request in.
I just want to know if I should be making edits to the Sahas application. To have them indicate that it's now for spring requests. Or for them to put, is this for fall or for spring? That's why I'm asking if it's binding. Because if it is, then I'll update the Sahas application.
Regardless, it's for like things that are like kind of I guess not necessarily emergency, but like things that.
Yeah, it's for things that they would know. So yeah, we'll call back feedback about it as such. Can also be fair for like events that happen at the beginning of the semester. They wouldn't have time with the Sahas system, but if they knew like ahead of time, then I think I'll do. All right. Any other discussion points? Okay. I've sent out the email to Britt and Director director book, so if you requested to be at that meeting, you should have gotten a seasoned copy of that. Hopefully we'll hear back soon and find out what times are available so you guys can all see that. Any other things or discussions that need to be happening at this meeting or anything? Is there anything else anyone wants to say before we move into adjourn? I don't know. Scott?
Why did y'all vote no on that one? Because I don't know why y'all did.
You're free to respond to the question.
Me personally, I was just going off of the mindset that, like, the spring pot is for the events that are going to be held in the spring, so I would much rather, have the request be in spring as well, and, use the fall pot for fall events. And they can, like, if they get their they'll be able to submit their application, like, as soon as the spring times, like, the time for spring submissions begin. So, because they're already, like, planning in advance, I think that they would still benefit from the first come, first served sort of system.
I vote the same idea with the addition that I also feel that we're also considering taking a lot of money out of Sahas to reconsider ECS fees. So I would be more curious to go and see how that goes with the addition of considering how that may impact any money we spend out of that pot before just saying pull from that pot and then trying to split the money for ECS over the year. So.
Thanks for sharing. All right. Does anyone have any announcements you'd like to make?
This Friday is the connecting board session for alternative funding, so I sent out a calendar invite, but it's actually in here, at 12, so it'll be pizza and street awards, so they're the best things in the world. Come on out if you're free.
Highly encourage you guys to come out to that. It's important that we all know this stuff because it's what we tell the clubs when they ask why. Justin, let's go.
Next Tuesday, we have a Thanksgiving dinner at Candy's.
Not cooked by me.
Thanksgiving.
But ordered by her. So come starve.
Yeah. Have a
That's why you
turkey,
shop, it's so good.
turkey, green bean casserole for the request of the president, mashed potatoes, stuffing, pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie trash.
Okay.
Live stream my
Wizard.
And tea and or water and lemonade. So
We are live right now.
I hope you enjoy it.
Scott?
I'll be having trainings Thursday and Friday. I didn't order pizza, but I'll try and order more than staying for one of them.
Wait, trainings for what?
Latia's team made a budget tracker for student organizations that calculates how much money they have from funded events, funded from Sahas and their carryover, so that they can keep track of their finances. And I'm also revising treasurer train to hit more home on points that were not made as clear.
Do you focus on like the treasurer group and like the officers group?
They are not there yet. They'll be posted tomorrow afternoon after receiving feedback from kids.
Okay. I would just suggest putting it on the officers group too, because like we've had issues with like, yeah, you know.
Got it. Brenda?
So the Department of Special Projects, the executive branch, is putting on their first art jam on Monday. So they're gonna have like 250 canvases and paint and stuff like that on Main Street. They might have food, I don't remember. And so people can come in and paint and then take their canvases home with them. This is a series of like de-stress art related things that they'll be doing throughout the year. So first one is Monday, very exciting, tell your friends.
on Main Street. I don't remember the time, but it's on social media.
Any other announcements? Cool. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 7:31 p.m. I recognize that I am present, Michael is present, Elise is present, Nikki is present, Ilse is present, Justin is present, Brian is present, Zane is present, and Scott is present, along with ex officios Verinda, Candace, and Tori, our FYAs, who can finally stay till the end of the meeting, and our secretary team. All right, we are adjourned.